Good morning. My name is Thomas Poon, and I am the Provost and Executive Vice President for Loyola Marymount University. I have the unenviable task of following our amazing vocal group. They are made up of members from the LMU Gospel Choir and the Sacred Heart Chapel Choir. So please join me in showing our appreciation for their skill and artistry one more time. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Timothy Law Snyder, Loyola Marymount's 16th president. Dr. Snyder is also the 16th president I have served with, either as a faculty member or as an administrator, which is to say, I know a thing or two about college and university presidents. And I would like to share with you what I know about President Snyder. So more than any president I have worked with, President Snyder embodies all that he seeks for this institution to become, which, as you may know, is a vision for LMU to be the definitive center for global imagination and its impacts. Now, there are three footprints embedded in this vision, and they call for LMU and each of us at this fine university to be global, creative, and interdisciplinary. And I'll begin with interdisciplinary and use a portion of President Snyder's vita to illustrate his interdisciplinarity and versatility. President Snyder double majored at the University of Toledo, earning a BA in psychology and a BS in mathematics. He earned his PhD in applied and computational mathematics from Princeton, where he taught in both statistics and operations research and in civil engineering. He began his teaching career at Georgetown in computer science and started his administrative career as an associate dean for science education. He's been a visiting professor at the Wharton School, which, as you may know, is the business school at UPenn. He's also been a visiting scholar at the Berklee School of Music. That's like 10 different academic disciplines. And he's been a musician for most of his life, lmu.edu/SnyderTunes. Check it out, it's good. Which brings me to the creative. There's a long-standing belief that people either fall into the category of right brain or left brain. President Snyder is just brain. His creative acumen is evident in his research, his speeches, his approaches to problem solving, and his quest to find a pun in every conversation you have with him. This, of course, can get a little awkward when you don't realize his play on words, and our meager left or right brains are left trying to figure out what just happened. I call it being Snydered, and Webster's is currently considering this as a new word for its 2018 edition. That would have been a lot funny if people actually bought dictionaries nowadays. The final footprint is global, which is not so much a location or variety of locations per se, but a way of thinking. When we innovate, problem solve, contemplate, or conflict resolve, President Snyder challenges us to think globally. All of us who have had the opportunity to work with President Snyder on making LMU a world-class university know that he always has the big picture in mind. And now, presenting his convocation address titled Collaborators in Creation, it is my honor to present to you our president, Dr. Timothy Law Snyder.
That's the best intro I've ever had. Thank you. Appreciate it. Wow. Thank you, Executive Vice President and Provost Poon. Provost Poon has been here not even 6 months, and he's already committed to increasing our teacher-scholar successes, our global footprint, and our creative partnerships. He is poised to usher us into a new era of success, founded on diversity. Provost Poon, we again welcome you. Thank you for that creative and somewhat imaginative introduction. Another new Bluff Top arrival, who should probably rise, Vice President for Mission and Ministry, John Sebastian. Dr. Sebastian's generous spirit and his profound understanding of our combined Jesuit, Marymount, and Sisters of St. Joseph of Orange traditions have already made a mark on our campus, so we again welcome him. As we undertake initiatives that propel our community forward, we benefit from all those new to our campus. If you are new to our campus, could you please rise? We welcome you with warmth. We welcome today members of our Board of Trustees. We have with us Father Alan Deck and Scott Coble, Alex Martin Chavez. We also have members of our Board of Regents, led by the fabulous Maria Salinas. We have LMU faculty, staff, and students, Sisters of St. Joseph of Orange, our Marymount sisters, our Jesuits, our interfaith clergy, alumni and friends, the student workers who actually set this thing up. We have the LMU... And Provost Poon thanked them twice, but in honor of the Holy Trinity, LMU Gospel and Sacred Heart Chapel Choir, led by Professor Diane White-Clayton, we praise you. Let's thank them again. Thanks to each of us for joining. Thanks to each of you for joining us this morning. Our great LMU work continues, and I am infinitely grateful for what we have achieved over the last year. We are continuing to expand LMU's diversity in all dimensions. As I outlined at last year's Convocation, diversity is indeed the font of and for human creation. We are exercising magis in our faculty hires, making our extraordinary faculty yet stronger. And this has been made possible in part through new revenues associated with our Playa Vista initiative. And we are increasing the diversity of leadership within our faculty. For example, in last year's promotion and tenure process, 56% of those promoted or tenured were persons of color. And this is no small number. This is no small number because we had over 30 colleagues last year up for review. And meanwhile, of course, we continue to advance our implicit bias initiative for our entire campus community. We are refreshing our strategic plan by expanding our ambitions and prioritizing next steps, while also convening our first ever campaign planning council, charged with preparing us for a comprehensive campaign slated to begin what we call the quiet phase in summer 2018, which is next summer. Our Playa Vista campus, as you know, will be open and active next fall. Our newly restructured marketing and communications organization is conducting our first ever branding exercise to determine how we might amplify perception of LMU's accomplishments. We continue to receive more applications than even our best predictions can anticipate, and we continue to yield student enrollments beyond our expectations. We have enacted new agreements with community colleges to forge new pathways for top quality students who will transfer to our institution. We continue in all our enrollments to set new records in diversity, in GPA, and in incoming test scores. We broke the 1,300 mark this year in SAT scores for our incoming class. We continue, meanwhile, to strengthen our boards of trustees and regents. In yesterday's LMU this week, I outlined a robust sampling of these and other recent accomplishments, ranging from SFTV's Netflix successes to CFA's Arts and Corrections Conference to the National Excellence in Teaching Award bestowed on Professor Michael Genovese, I call him Genovese, in BCLA, to the Graduate School of Education's procurement of significant grants, to Professor Jeremy Pal of the Seaver College and his landmark work on South Asian climate phenomena, to Loyola Law School's Immigrant Justice Clinic and Project for the Innocent, released 3 people from prison who were there wrongfully just last year, to CBA launching the Institute for Business Ethics and Sustainability, to our guardians of the truth at the William H. Hannon Library who help students navigate the information ecosystem. I spoke of SAHI's accomplishments, our SAHI publishers, in the groundbreaking Harriet Tubman Press, the successful conclusion of our $100 million scholarship initiative, our record-setting procurement of grants, over $10 million last year, our first to second year retention rate climbing from 88% to 91.2% this year, a jump made possible through effective collaboration between student and academic affairs. Our 60th anniversary of Radio KXLU and their upcoming fundraiser. Our continuing ascension in national rankings. We rose to number 2 in the West as a school best for veterans. Our new programming, including our San Bernardino Theological Degree Completion Program. Our continuing environmental efforts, becoming the first Jesuit institution to join the United Nations Principles for Responsible Investment, and our facilities and students people getting together and collaborating to make us number 1 in the nation in the Recycle Mania competition, and that's a monster competition. Number 1. Our recent welcoming of members of each of the 11 regions of the new Jesuit West Province, and 500 yogis on National Yoga Day. And our accelerated progress in getting the word out, moving from a best-kept secret toward an institution of world-class renown. And of course, these accomplishments are only part of our story. Every day, and often in ways unnoticed by the highlighting of a new initiative, a grant, or an award, our students thrive and strive. They model how we might create a better and wholly inclusive world. And they're with us today, which is amazing. Could students here please rise? Also often unnoticed, and this is the true moment of matter at an institution like ours, what happens between a faculty member and a student or students. Every day, every moment, our faculty guide students toward deeper engagement in academic wonder, and they work their tails off to make sure things happen. So could the tailless faculty please rise so we can acknowledge you and thank you. Our student affairs and campus ministry staff help guide our students through co-curricular and faith-based initiatives that help transform students from youthful seekers to independent actors who become women and men for and with others. Could our student affairs professionals and campus ministers and campus ministry staff please rise so we can thank you. And yes, the support of all the above is indeed critical to our success, necessary through the lens of St. Ignatius's Magis, that restless desire to do better for others. Nobody represents that better than our staff. Could you please rise, along with administrators as well? Speaking of St. Ignatius, none of us can go forth and set the world on fire without the tinder kindling and fuel to help the fires flourish. Could our benefactors, and that's anybody who's given us a penny or more in their existence, please rise so we can thank you for your support. The state of our university is strong, vibrant. But to keep evolving, succeeding, and thriving, we require a harmonizing factor, creative collaboration. Today, I will speak to creativity and our imagination. I'm going to start with our zeal for infinite wonder and move from there to why our world needs imagination. Third, why imagination needs a center. And fourth, why LMU is that very center, what I call a center for global imagination and its impacts. So let us begin with infinite wonder. Foremost, we create. In the Genesis story, God breathed life into us in God's image. That is, God created. And we ended up in such an image, born to create. Even a casual observer witnesses the seeking of infinite wonder taking place every day, especially at a university like ours. But recently we saw a corona of infinite wonder captivate our entire nation. Here at LMU, under the guidance of physics professor John Bullman, our community gathered under the flags at Ignatian Circle to participate in the total solar eclipse, or what the students call the total solar eclipse. We put our lives on pause to stop and gaze through Professor Bullman's telescope. And we were not alone. Fascination swelled across our globe. Some traveled thousands of miles for a few hundred seconds of cosmic wonder, while we at LMU witnessed the event only to return, as did I, to the back of the line to witness it yet again. All present were in awe, inspired in infinite wonder. Our ability as persons to engage in infinite wonder is a gift from God, and it's one that we are ceaselessly compelled to honor. It even goes to wild lengths. We seek not just the likes of eclipses, but even things that most of us believe are not real, as we continually yearn for something more. We have dreams that come true, coincidences that adopt Empyrean meaning, good acts that reflect off some cosmic mirror and then return to us as cosmic favors. So even in ways in which the hocus tends to pocus, we live to anticipate, to desire, to create, and to transcend our limits. The Jesuit paleontologist, Teilhard de Chardin, spoke of this longing to transcend limits as part of our call to collaborate with God in the work of creation. Our duty as humans, Chardin wrote, is to proceed as if limits to our ability did not exist. Life has made us conscious collaborators in a creation which is still going on in us in order to lead us to a goal much more lofty and distant than we imagined. Our capacity for infinite wonder leads us to seek it not just in the cosmic and the transcendent, but also in the particular and the concrete. Pope Francis is fond of quoting a 17th century epigraph on the life of St. Ignatius that summarized Ignatius' teaching as follows: to suffer no restriction from anything, however great, and yet to be contained in the tiniest of things. That is divine. And consider how this connects two seemingly opposite tendencies in the Ignatian vision: the call to transcend all limitations for God's greater glory, and yet also to be aware of God in all things, that God can be found within us and around us at every moment, including within one another. Infinite wonder calls us to the divine that is beyond us, the divine that is within us, and the divine all around us. And this perspective helps us understand better what Teilhard means in calling us to be conscious creators in the collaboration with God. In his work, Teilhard uses all things knowable and all things experienced, that is, all data available, including that from the spiritual. And that leads us not just toward openness, but also toward collaborative interdisciplinarity. But there's a monster in the mix. Because our universe features truly humbling limits to what we can know. Inflationary cosmology tells us that the early universe, in the first trillionth of a second of its existence, expanded at a rate far greater than the rate that followed, including that which we witness and measure today. Space itself expanded at a rate that outpaced the speed of light. And if inflationary cosmology is true, then the vast majority of what exists in our universe has already moved beyond what can ever be reached by measurements or observations. This means that the majority of what exists will never be accessible to us. Hence, cannot be known, ever. So how do we respond to this situation? Our infinite wonder in where it leads us and limits to what we can know lead us to consider why our world needs our creativity, our imagination. First, if indeed most of what exists is forever beyond our grasp, we must be as inclusive as possible, as was Teilhard, of what we can know. This inclusivity and openness drive us to invite the whole human mind into our work, in particular including the data of our imaginations, and including our theological and humanistic traditions and experiences, rather than privileging strictly the logical and the observable. It also compels us to explore the frontiers of interdisciplinarity, to break down the inherited and self-imposed barriers to intellectual exploration, to draw on different ways of knowing, and to combine their insights in new and distinctive ways. Faith, reason, interdisciplinarity. Together, these factors summon us to embrace an ethic of collaboration, courageously promoting a culture of encounter, truth, and growth. And our world needs collaboration because the challenges we face today can only be solved through collaborative creativity. Consider the critical issues our students believe will define the world in which they will live. According to the Global Shapers annual survey, which took place this year, the top 5 concerns for millennials are, and I'll do it Letterman style, from 5 to 1. Top 5, shout them out, concerns to millennials, unless you're a millennial. Shout them out. What are they? Student debt. That did not make the top 5, but thank you. You know, computer scientists start counting at 0. That might have been 0, the one above 1. Climate change from Dr. Crabtree. Any other contenders? Thank you, millennials, for your silence. It's the first time that's happened. Job security, interesting one. Housing costs. Social inequality. Work-life balance. They already figured that one out. They're quite good at that. Number 5 was religious conflicts, religious conflicts. Number 4, poverty. Number 3, inequality in income and in discrimination. Number 2, large-scale conflict, wars. Number 1, for the 3rd straight year, number 1, climate change. Note, none of these are about self. They're about others, LMU-style thoughts. But each of these problems will be solved only if we expand the reach of our collective resourcefulness. And their seeming intractability shows how urgently we need fresh thinking and a willingness to try something new. And they also show the empathy and compassion that our world needs. Now, as a side note, let us be aware as educators that too many of our students arrive on campus with a passion for creativity, but have not yet had the opportunity to be rehearsed in acts of creation. Our challenge is to help them understand that acts creative are usually accompanied by risks and repeated failures. And that includes strong education in the arts. As Janine Uribe recently wrote to me, seeing artists in action gives permission for others to dream, visualize, and be free to pursue what they have believed was beyond them. In short, what the world needs now in this moment of increasingly into our future challenge is more imagination and not a small dose of it. So I've spoken of infinite wonder and our eagerness and capacity for it. I've spoken to our accelerating need for imagination. Let's consider for a moment what creative imagination requires from us as a community. As I've said time and again, and as Provost Poon just reminded us, my vision is for LMU to become the definitive center for global imagination and its impacts. I have spoken to how we can become so by expanding 3 footprints: global, creative, and interdisciplinary. Now, many, when hearing the phrase global imagination, simply see this vision as becoming global, or more global, or globularly global. Now, indeed, we must expand our global offerings in study abroad and in curricular and other innovation. But the global in the phrase has always been an adjective. The noun is imagination. And for imagination to do all that we need, our imagination needs not just to be active, it needs to be centered. We talk as though creativity happens in a vacuum, or at least with some individual, but our best work exhibits collaboration, from quiet conversation to the all-out concerted work like that of the 1,700-plus co-discoverers of the Higgs boson. To create, collaborators must share something in common, something that keeps them centered. We think of imagination as existing at the edge of the unknown, and indeed, it needs an edge, but it also needs a center. Now, this should not surprise us, because as any creator can tell you, and as Professor Ray Toll, who dressed up for the occasion today, he wore black, as Professor Toll told me in a recent faculty forum, told all of us, while imagination does require freedom, it also requires constraints. 14 lines and iambic cadence define a Shakespearean sonnet. Key signatures and metronomic regularity parameterize music. Bounded palettes blot bounded canvases. Photographs succumb to lenses. Gravity enforces architecture. But yes, these are constraints, but they enable, not inhibit. They center our imagination. When we collaborate, we inevitably constrain one another, but often in ways positive and even in ways inspiring. And nowhere is this truer than within a university, because scholars ultimately join a university community in part to help center and stimulate one another's work. We embody this centering every day in the classroom, the library, the lab, the studio, the residence hall, the playing field, the chat room, the department meeting, the worship service. Maybe not in the department meeting. Let me give a few classroom examples. In her theological studies courses, Professor Cecilia Gonzalez Andreu encourages students to go out and find the world's treasures and discover that aesthetics is the connective tissue between science and theology, which gives them a playground for expanded conversation. Chemistry professor Nicole Bouvier-Brown helps students learn that the burdens of air pollution are not equally shared among all people, thereby connecting students to environmental justice issues that provoke their action. The Academy of Catholic Thought and Imagination, led by Professor Brian Traynor, challenges our assumptions while cultivating our curiosity. As you can see in ACTI's exhibit, Mystery Imagination and the Catholic University, currently on display at the William H. Hannon Library. Or think even beyond the classroom, our Bellarmine Fora. Last year's Bellarmine Forum, as Professors Paul Harris and Brad Stone got energized, accompanied us in understanding slow time. In all these scenes and many more, we encounter and challenge one another, centering one's creativity. And imagination's need for a center applies especially to the interdisciplinary frontiers. As we expand our interdisciplinary footprint, we must practice a disciplined interdisciplinarity. And that's one that proceeds from a firm grounding within the various disciplines and then combines and catalyzes their approaches. So with that in mind, I have asked Provost Poon to explore as a priority for this academic year how we can expand our interdisciplinary successes, and this is a topic he will address in his coming convocation. In addition, as we plan for our next capital campaign, I have urged our academic leadership teams to aim for ambitious achievements in areas of interdisciplinary opportunity and to identify the resources necessary for us to make a meaningful impact. Creative constraints also underpin university life in the productive tensions between academic freedom and civil discourse. Last year, I spoke to the importance of a culture of encounter, what I called getting out of body. Universities must be places that require us to live together in dialogue in conditions of mutual listening and questioning, where each of us is prepared to melt a little bit, to move a little bit, to walk away changed and for the better by virtue of our engagement. Academic freedom is the foundation of such a culture. And at LMU, that freedom is and will remain intact and assured. Provost Poon, our deans, our faculty leadership, and I stand beside and behind our faculty and our students as they freely explore ideas, even when the global temperature rises. For all of us who enjoy academic freedom, the corresponding duty is to preserve civility in our discourse. And in doing so, we always self-impose certain constraints. We constrain ourselves to be fair-minded, honest, charitable, courageous, and brave, but these are liberating, ennobling constraints that inspire and engage us more fully. They encourage us to imagine together amidst the spiraling discord that surrounds us toward a better way of being. So where have we been thus far today? I'm about 1/4. No, that's a joke. We are creators, and we are inspired by infinite wonder. Our world depends on our creativity and imagination. Our imaginations are at their most creative when they are centered, and what centers us is a culture of encounter and the collaborative community it generates. Where, then, might in our universe creativity flourish best? LMU. I was kind of expecting a Go Lions from Dr. Bove. That's correct. LMU. Every university can and must serve society as a center for imagination, but this university is poised to be the definitive center. Because what most animates my professional life, what launches me from bed every morning, joyfully committed to our shared endeavor, is the belief that LMU's opportunity for helping to center the global imagination that our world so needs is unparalleled. Imagination and its impacts, these are in our wheelhouse. So let's consider 3 more ways in which that is so. Our location, our curriculum, and our mission, which together position us to provide that center for imagination in ways definitive. Consider first our location. Los Angeles is the world's capital of creativity. Los Angeles is one of the most diverse cities and culturally rich cities in the world. Los Angeles is home to the largest archdiocese in the United States. Our city is a place where the humanistic, the technological, the creative, marketing, and startup spheres collide constantly, as is happening behind me in Playa Vista. Each of these is an area in which LMU soars. In our backyard, LAX happens to be the 4th busiest airport on planet Earth. Adjacent to us, a hub of aerospace technology and innovation, including the company likely to lead humankind to other planets in our solar system. We are a Pacific Rim university, a Latin America adjacent university, and through our mission we can engage boldly with the cultures, values, and future growth of these regions in a way that few other powerful American universities can. This makes us uniquely poised to promote a sense of global imagination. Consider next our curriculum. Our undergraduate core curriculum, grounded firmly in the liberal arts and sciences, offers not just a broad spectrum of learning, but also an integrative layer that makes our student experience unique. In nearly every other core, and this is the case even at our sibling Jesuit universities, integration and interdisciplinarity are left in the hands of the individual student, a hope rather than a guided discernment. And make no mistake, the ability to be creative will increasingly become a key value sought by those who seek to employ our students, and a necessity in our students being of service to the world. Our Jesuit and Marymount founding heritages also position us toward collaborative imagination. St. Ignatius, in the spiritual exercises, inspired a tradition of contemplative prayer in which the seeker employs all parts of the mind and spirit, including the imagination. Our Marymount tradition places central emphasis on the creative arts as the expression of the human spirit sharing in God's creation. The late, beautiful Sister Peg Dolan, RSHM, summarized LMU's goal as forming students with what she called compassionate minds and intelligent hearts. And this is a phrase that has been adopted by our student affairs staff as a motto. This is what we do here. And because we are Loyola Marymount University, we can do it better than any university in the country. Imagination also enables our commitment to the service of faith. Faith, as you know, Scripture tells us, is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That is, it aids us in knowing that those things for which we most deeply hope are indeed substantive. Our university can be and must be a bridge between the substantive, academic, and public discourse and the substance of things for which we hope. Imagination is the girder of that bridge. It teaches us to peer beneath and see beyond the mere image to the imagined, to the truth that at once transcends the world around us, yet inheres in every part, contained by nothing, yet contained in the tiniest of things. When I contemplate LMU's future, our future, I'm proud that we are poised not only to continue LMU's tradition of greatness, but to expand on that greatness. All around us, we see tangible signs of this emerging reality. Global, creative, interdisciplinary. Our global footprint expands as we welcome more international students than ever before, as we support more international immersion experiences than ever before, as our faculty and staff gather this Friday to plot our future course on internationalizing our curricular and co-curricular offerings for the first time, hence more than ever before. Our creative footprint expands with the achievements of our students and alumni in the fine performing and visual arts, alongside our engineers, our marketeers, our entrepreneurs, our philosophers, our theologians, our future classroom teachers. And as our Campaign Planning Council explores how we can build out a truly creativity-centered campus, which we will do. Our interdisciplinary footprint will expand through Provost Poon's new initiatives, through our engagement with Playa Vista and Silicon Beach, through new intellectual synergies being tapped within and between our colleges and schools. And these footprints will deepen as each of us locates our collaborative spirit, experiments, innovates, breaks down silos, encourages one another to think big and take risks. Reflecting back to our time together, viewing that total solar eclipse, and experiencing the infinite wonder out there, I delight in knowing that together, the people behind the telescope, we cherish our shared experience, where the sublime reveals itself to us every day in the heavens above and here within and between ourselves. Emboldened by our Jesuit and Marymount traditions, and in collaboration with one another, we embrace challenges. We vault over limitations. We work for and with each other. Together, let us resolve to create with purpose and with boundless energy and copious joy on this bluff and beyond, the definitive center for global imagination as collaborators in creation. Thank you.
Thank you, President Snyder, for your imaginative vision for LMU. President Snyder invites all of you to join us for lunch in the Sculpture Garden to continue the conversation. Have a wonderful day.